Hey friends, welcome back, and before we jump into this tutorial, I want to thank The Coldest Water for partnering with me to make this video. The Coldest Water makes these awesome water bottles. They keep your water cold for over 36 hours, and it's so convenient. This is like the best water bottle I've ever owned. I've been using it for the past couple weeks, and it's keeping me hydrated when I make tutorials like this one. But yeah, if you guys are interested in getting your own water bottle, check the link in the description and use promo code BOICE to get 10% off your entire order. Highly recommend these, and thank you so much. But yeah, let's jump into the video. Hey friends, welcome back to the Dragonite tutorial, and today we are continuing to shaping, and specifically we're going to be working on the chest. This is a really exciting piece, and if we have time we're going to keep going and shape out a little bit more, but let's jump into it. Alright, so let's get into the chest. Now there are going to be some small folds, so hopefully we can show this as clean as possible, but in that case I'll go a little bit slow so you guys can check it out. But we have our model chest up right now, and we have our 2-unit flap, our 1-unit flap, and then down here is kind of the waist belt area. We're going to start with the 1-unit flap right here. And the concept of this is kind of like a dragon head that's attached to his chest plate. So that's the goal in our aesthetic. You don't have to do it exactly like I'm doing it, but or at least you can follow the structure and then continue to shape it in case there's extra details that you like. But let's get into it. So the first thing with this 1-unit flap here is we're going to valley fold it in half, just like this. And you don't have to fold the entire flap in half. You can just kind of pinch the center 2 units, just kind of like that. And essentially from here, we are going to create the teeth. So this is going to be kind of an unusual fold, but we are going underneath this flap and creating kind of a diagonal that starts from here and then leads into the center. And there's not too much of a reference point for this one, but so let's start with the bottom. We're going to do the same thing on the top as well, but we're kind of just folding in this fold, and as you can see, it's bending out a little bit like so. And we're going to do the same thing on the top side. This time it's going to go from up here, like this. And as you can kind of see, because we're doing this, it's turning this corner into a flap. And once we have that point kind of set, we want to pinch it. It's kind of like this. And we can keep our, so see how we folded our flap in half right here? Now we can connect the residual fold just to the, basically to the corner. Just like that. And from here we can kind of allow it to lie flat, so it'll kind of turn into something like this. And as you can see, I went over the mark a little bit here. That's okay. We're going to use this for something else later, so that's generally okay. But I know that might have been kind of confusing, so let me show that again. So on the inside it's just kind of like this. And you really want all 3 of these points to be sharp because our tooth is going to be sharp. Just spend some time. There's not exact like references. It's kind of everything's a swivel fold at this point. But let's try on the other side here. So first we are going to start with the bottom. And again, it's going to fold from about this grid unit up to like in across about 1.5. And basically once you have one side done, you want to mimic it on the other side. And we're doing that up to this corner, so this is why it's kind of like a swivel fold here. And same thing on the top side. And again, once that's kind of in place, then we can use that half flap and reconstruct the mountain fold basically from here to the corner. Kind of like this. And again, that enables this flap to kind of fold down across like that. And if you notice some of your paper is getting caught in the corner, kind of like mine, you just want to adjust it so that everything can kind of lay flat. Again, the cleaner you can make this, the better, because then you get sharper teeth. So just check where the paper's getting stuck and kind of fix it. But essentially we have something that looks like this. And right now they're overlapping each other just a little bit. But that's okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to fold kind of bisectors. So, and again, this is kind of, it won't lay flat now, but we're going to bisect this angle. So from the middle right here and along the edge, we're going to bisect this, and it's basically going to come down here, and then it's going to again bisect along this angle. And we're going to do the same thing with the top side. So let me show you the first one. So I'm just carefully, and again, you kind of want to, there's not really a reference point because this isn't flat. So I'm kind of folding it in the air, just creasing a little bit first. And obviously this is going to be like a tooth, so it's the most important to be precise. So kind of set that up first, and then I'm going to set up this one. And I'm just folding gently using my fingernails as guides before I crease down. And then from here you can pinch, and let me show this for you guys. So once I pinched it, you can see that it is a bit sharp like that. And not fully sharp, but you want to make it as sharp as you can, as close to the point as you can. And then you're going to do that with the top side as well. And once you do the top side, then you're really going to be able to pinch that tooth to make it sharp. So I'll show you what I mean. So we have the top side almost there. There you go. Now it is to a point, and as you can see, I am just going to pinch these all together. And it really isn't going to lay flat, but that's to our advantage because it will give our face just a little bit of structure and shape, and it'll make it a little bit easier to round out because what this half flap basically is on the bottom will be the inner jaw, and then these are the outlines for the upper jaw. But let's do that really quickly again on this side just to show it again. And again, we're doing bisectors down to here and then down across. Which won't lie flat. And then I like to start with the top just to make sure it's really sharp. And then we are going to go along the side, and that makes it stick up a little bit like this. And then we're going to do the same thing along the other side. Make sure it's pointy. And then once we have both up here, we can just pinch it together. And there is our tooth. So again, spend some time on this. This is a little bit small detail, but the cleaner you can get it, the nicer it'll be. They kind of look like this. And for now, we're going to move on to this bottom part really quick. And over here, this is actually pretty easy. We're just going to valley fold this edge to the closest grid line. So it's basically divided in half. And you can kind of crease through this fold. And we're going, and that, I guess it kind of locks it into place a little bit, like this. And then same thing on the other side. Let's see if we can get this one. And again, since the model isn't quite as flat anymore, I recommend just folding it in the air and folding a little bit slower to be precise. Just like that. All right. Now what we're going to do is, since we have a flap here, we're going to do a reverse fold to make a corner point. And it's basically just along this diagonal, 45 degrees. So we're going to reverse fold this corner in. And as you can see, it gives us just a small little point like that. And honestly, we can just leave it sticking up, but if you want to fold it flat for now, that's okay. I'm just going to leave mine sticking up so we remember it's there. Like that. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. It's a little reverse fold. Like that. There you go. Awesome. So now we're going to work on this top section here. All right, so we're going to work on the top now, and here's our 2-unit flap. I'm just going to fold it up so we can look underneath. And right now we have our diagonals, and they're a little bit past this grid unit. But now that we have our teeth in place, I'm actually just going to correct it a little bit so it lies as close to the grid line as possible. We're kind of just fixing our mistakes here because that grid line is going to become our next tooth. And we are going to do that on the opposite side as well. And there's not too much to fix. So if you fold it a little bit more precise than I did, then that'll be to your benefit. But yeah, we can kind of just swivel this into place. But what I want you guys to imagine is this corner is going to become the new tooth. And to do that, we are going to turn this valley fold into a mountain fold, where we'll have valley folds basically running along here, and then they'll run up. So to do that, and this is why we collapsed it in this structure like this, is we actually have an opening on the side like this, where our level shifters are. And as you can see, is when I open it, I can turn that valley fold into a mountain fold, right, very slowly. And then I can pinch just the corner to kind of keep it into place. And you can see that there's naturally a valley fold starting to form right along there. And that's exactly what we're going for. Just like that. And you can kind of fold it to the center a little bit. It's not really going to collapse down, but you can really get it going. And it's kind of a weird structure. So because we don't have as much room, it kind of locks off around this corner. So the valley folds that are created kind of run from the center and go this way. And then the other one is just down like that. And that is totally fine for us. And it will actually lie down flat like that once it's creased in. And we're going to do that on the other side as well. So I'm, again, opening just the top layer here and pushing into the pocket with my finger. And that inverts this grid unit here from a valley to a mountain. And then we create a valley fold from the center up to this corner. And then we can close it, and the remaining crease will form on the bottom. Just like that. And we have our units kind of like this. And now we need to turn this into teeth. All right, so to turn this into a tooth, let's actually look on the bottom of this new flap we created here. And we can see kind of our existing lines, this one right here. And basically what we're going to use, we're going to use this edge as our guide for a valley fold. And we want it to, it's almost like a reverse fold as we do this. And it doesn't have to start from the base of the tooth. It'll start like right around here and go up, so that it's basically thinning out this flap. So let me show you really quick. So I'm using the edge as a guide, basically on the other side. And it's mainly just to thin out this tooth just a little bit. So I know it's kind of hard to see, but I did a valley fold here, and then the consequence fold kind of folds to that corner. So I'm gonna crease this and then I'll unfold it so you guys can see. So here we're gonna unfold it. Yeah, let's see if we can see this. So basically we made a fold from the bottom of the tooth here. See this valley fold right here, and then once this valley fold hits the edge, it uses the edge as reference for the other valley fold until you get to the point, just like this. And it can really only happen while the flap is partly closed. So that's why it makes it a little bit tricky, a little bit difficult. But we'll do it on the other side as well. So normally I'll hold the paper like this where it's partially closed. That way I can get the point sharp, and then it kind of just, you can kind of just push it into place like that, and then just fold down again. And that is the start of the teeth from the bottom. And now we are going to work on the top section here, and this one's a little bit tricky as well. But what we have is this opening, and we are going to do a similar maneuver to the other side. And you can see we have this flap open here where the level shifter occurred. And we're using that as our area to create a tooth. So there's not a whole lot of reference exactly besides the corners. But if I do that slightly, if I ghost crease it a little bit, you can notice we can crease almost along the grid line from a valley up until we hit our other valley fold that lies along here. And then we do another valley just to the corner of the tooth, like that. So kind of like this. And again, this can really only happen as the model is closing, as this flap is closing. And it will actually fold all the way down kind of like that, but you see here. And then of course we need to make this flap sharp. So because it sticks over like this, we're going to do another reverse fold, basically from here and then down to the point again to thin out the tooth. And I'll try to show this as best as I can without covering up too much, but we're starting the reverse fold and then we go to the corner of the tooth to make it pointy. Just like that. And you can see it's a much smaller tooth than the bottom set, but that's totally fine. But we kind of have a tooth like that. And I didn't fold this very cleanly to the lines, but you really want to make this sharp. And if it's not super sharp, then again, in the end, you're actually going to bisect this entire tooth and pinch it to make it even thinner and sharper looking. But that is the general basis of how you create this tooth right here. We're going to run through it again on the other side very quickly. So once again, it's around this grid line here. Once it hits the valley fold, then it goes another valley fold into the corner. and make sure you're as close to the points as you can. That way it's a nice sharp corner. And then we're going to do one more to thin it out back on this side. Just like that. And then make that tooth as sharp as you can. Just kind of like this. And pinch it to ensure it's sharp, and then we have our two teeth like that. And that is how the teeth are formed. Pretty interesting. And this will actually lie mostly flat once it's all nice and nice. And again, you should fold that a little slower than how I went through it. Be very careful and precise so that your teeth can be very, very sharp. But I mean, even though I didn't do the best job here, it's still pretty decent. But let's continue on into the face of the dragon head, basically. Alright, so now we are moving on to this 2-unit flap here. And the first thing we're going to do, which is a little tricky, is along this first grid unit, we are going to valley fold it in half. So we're taking this edge, this top edge, down to here. And so you're gotta be a little bit careful, but and this might take a little bit of time, but really line it up. There's not too much paper in the way, so it's not too difficult. It's just a little bit weird to do. So kind of like that. And you don't have to crease it too tightly. We're going to use this mainly a little bit later, but it's mainly to mark out a reference for ourselves, like that. So there's our crease, and we can see it a little bit better from the top. That in this case, it's a mountain fold. And this is why it's important. So as you can see, we have the middle crease line here, and then we have this new crease line we made, and it makes a corner. We want to do a valley fold, and this is just a 45-degree angle that goes from this point as reference all the way up and all the way down. And it's a reference for a 45-degree angle. So basically what you're going to do is, let's move this out of the way. We're going to take this flap and make sure it is aligned where it crosses that point we just made, which is right here, right? So just make sure it goes through that. There's a couple other references that you can make, but essentially it will be like this, and you can even use the crease we just made as some reference, like this. And it might stretch out your tooth a little bit, but it shouldn't go too far, so it should totally be okay, right? And as you can see, we have that mountain fold we made, that half unit, actually will align with the center line now. You can see this is that mountain fold, it lines with the center line, and we can actually refold that a little bit for when we do our next one, which makes it a lot easier. So it'll kind of look like this as we're going for it. Right. And here we go, like that. And it gives us this little flap in the middle right here, this little extra bit. And what we want to do here is you're going to open it up and squash fold it. So we kind of already have the creases aligned right here, but this tip at the very bottom, you're going to want to squash fold. Just like this. All right, and it creates kind of a cool little nose shape, as well as kind of a pattern right here. And now that we've done that, you can see that our teeth are kind of sticking out to the side, which is exactly what we want. So now they're visible. And then we just have, I think, about 2 or 3 more details left in this. And the first one is we're just going to swivel fold. So right now this corner is not very sharp, but we're going to swivel fold. And it's basically going to be a valley fold from this corner, and it goes down as much as it can to wherever it hits, and then the rest of the paper will swivel over. So let me show that, because that's kind of confusing. But we have basically a mark right here, a reference here, and then a reference at the corner, and we're going to make a valley fold from this reference point to the corner, like that. And then you just kind of allow it to collapse back down wherever. And wherever you decide to do this, you just want to make sure it's the same on the other side. But if you do it precisely, it should be about a 90-degree angle here. So just like this. On the other side, small detail, but it makes the point, this top, it'll make it a pointy horn, which is the goal. And then we're going to make eyes, but not really eyes. It's more of like the ridge of the eyebrow, kind of. The bone structure. What we're going to do is we're going to take this flap that I'm holding with the tweezers here, and this you kind of have the eyeball, but it's you just want to valley fold it down, and I guess it's maybe like a half unit comparatively, but you kind of want to just check out if that looks good, or if you want to change it. And then the same thing on the other side. Generally you match it on both sides just to kind of see how it looks. So kind of like that a little bit. And honestly, this is where you can take your own creativity and make whatever you want. If you don't think it looks like an eyeball enough, you can maybe use the side flaps right here, pull it into an eye, or do whatever. But yeah, there's a lot of paper for you to use here, so get your creativity caps on. And then later on, which we'll do in the very final shaping, but if we do it now it might mess it up, is basically the shaping of the dragon head goes as you push out the nose a little bit and pinch it so that it becomes kind of like a snout, and it opens up this cavern in the chest where we're then going to unfold this flap just a little bit for the bottom of the jaw, right? And same with the sides. And basically we're trying to make a gaping mouth kind of illusion, so that way it's like the dragon mouth is open and it's going to bite. And then the teeth you will shape however you want, probably a little bit sharper. Same with these teeth, you're gonna point it down, which I'll just show the completed model so you guys can kind of see how it looks all complete. It's like this, and you can notice we pinched the teeth a little bit more just to make it sharp, and same thing on the top teeth, like that. You might also notice on the top, which is kind of hard to show, well, the top is rounded actually a little bit here. Obviously we have this part which is from the helmet, which we might actually do right now. I think we can do that right now. But that's more of a final detail once you've shaped out everything else. But basically you're making a mountain fold that's kind of just like a wedge all across here. And you want to do this very gently, which you can do now just to save and then implement it later. You kind of make a wedge from corner to corner. It's more like an indent, and this doesn't really lay flat, which helps round out the horns a little bit. I basically just pinched in a mountain fold, and this might take some practice to kind of get it even like that, but it's kind of like this, very simple, and it just draws out the horns a little bit, and you can even valley fold these down and make the horn as sharp as you want. But that is the concept of this, and I think we have time to get the neck part set, and then I will talk a little bit about the waist area, and we'll call that a tutorial, where next time we'll finish up the helmet, and then we'll get to the arms and legs, and it'll pretty much be done. So we are almost completed with this tutorial. Great job everyone for making it through this far. But yeah, not the end yet. Let's talk a little bit about this section. All right, so this is quite a slight detail, and it's a little bit strange. But basically the concept of this one is, for one, normally this flap will close as 2 units, and I can't remember if we talked about this in the other video where we did the head claps, but you actually want to valley fold it along half the unit. So I don't know if you guys can see here. Here's our flap. There's 1 unit, and then the second unit goes down to the bottom of the chest, or the top of the chest, and then right along this half is actually where we want to valley fold it. And the nice thing is, because of paper thickness, this should actually nicely collapse, just like this. So that's half a unit right there, and with everything it should still lie flat, because it kind of compensates. But we're going to start with that, and so make sure you have that done. The next thing we're going to do is, if I open this up a little bit, you can see that we have some flaps in there. I think it's 2. They're just kind of the tops of the Elias stretch. We're actually going to want to pull this out, and actually maybe I won't use tweezers. You want to be really careful with this, because if your paper's tight, you risk tearing. So just be very patient. Get it to come out very slowly. You don't want to force anything. And if you've seen any of my other flap pulling tutorials, which it's kind of like these, you want to pull it out as far as you can to the edge, but you want to maintain the vertical lines on both sides like this. And then once that's done, you refold along the half unit like we just did, and you'll get something like this. And you want to try to make it even. So don't just fold down and hope for the best. Try to look for where the flap is going, and then make a small crease along here, which mine wasn't very even, but yeah, try to have it like make a horizontal line or do something. But we're gonna do another fold, so it won't matter too much. And again, you can't really see what's going on here, but something like this, right? And we're going to do the same exact thing with the other side. So gently pull out these 2 flaps. Like that. Maintain our vertical lines, and then crease it down by just half a unit. And we're just trying to match the 2 sides to make them look the same. So just kind of do whatever feels more natural for what your paper is going for. And then crease it down as so. You don't want to mush as too much, but basically from here it's pretty simple. You're just going to valley fold this edge to the center line, like this. Where's our center line? It shifted a little bit, so again, be very careful. And since we did it on the half unit, it should line up right along there. And if you need to adjust yours a little bit or fold it a little bit cleaner so that it reaches, definitely do that so that we maintain cleanliness. So that is the detail we're going for. And And I just need to clean my right side up a little bit more because it's kind of a mess. But that is the concept. And it's okay that it's not really lined super flat, because later on, once we shape out the dragon head to make it 3D, this will also be sticking out a little bit over our chest armor. And this is kind of like a neck guard is what the intention is, like this. And again, that's why we didn't finish shaping up our dragon head yet, because as you can see, we needed to press on it a lot, so it helps that it's flat for now before we fully shape it once everything's done. This is like the last thing you do, basically. All these small details that you want three-dimensional will be saved for last. So there's that, and then our helmet will sit on top, and we will work on the helmet more later in the next tutorials. And so let's talk about the belt area really quickly. And so what we have going on here is actually mainly a design flaw originally, where I made the torso too long. And so this depends, this might be different on your model, depending what paper you're using. But once it's thinned out, the torso is quite long, where the hips should actually be around here, right at the bottom of the jaw. However, the hips are more down where the spikes are. And so honestly here, you have a couple options on what to do. And this might be done later when we do the legs, but you could just kind of make a crimp fold where you bring like along half the grid line or along a grid line. You just kind of crimp it this way and then fold down a little bit. So like we're basically hiding a unit in the torso, and you could do something like that. If you want, you could stick an Elias stretch in the middle and make a flap along this one and pull it up, so then you can kind of make a belt shape. And so that would just look like you grab from the bottom here and you push it up, and then you crease halfway, and it's half mush, half Elias stretch just randomly being generated. But I'll leave that for the shaping. Honestly, because the torso is large, what it helps with is positioning the legs, which we'll go over later. But just know that you'll need to compensate the torso being really long somehow, otherwise it's not going to look proportional. But yeah, so I'm just going to leave it kind of like this for now in this crimped position, and it's honestly already just shortening the flap a little bit. And then don't forget, with these guys, eventually they're going to be faced towards each other, kind of like this. So that would also help if you pushed up along here and making some, you know, extra details happen, or shortening the belt a little bit. But yeah, keep that in mind. And with other words, that is the end of the tutorial. Next time we're going to be working on the helmet, and then we're going to do basically the shaping of the arms, which once we do the arms and the legs, which the structure of it, there's not too much to explain, but we'll go into the final shaping, which is basically all the posing, where to use glue, you know, some tips on how to make it a little bit more rigid, and all that fun stuff, which a lot of it will be left up to you guys and your creativity, for you guys to just experiment with. But thank you for sticking along with this tutorial. Don't forget, check out my website, check out some of the links in the description just on how to support the channel, and I hope you guys enjoy. I'll see you in the next tutorial.
All this origami, all this origami, all this origami got me going kamikaze now.